Okay, let's go through my personal settings that I trade on every single day in the markets through TradingView. I trade Forex, and so these settings, you may change yours going through, you may like something, you may not like something, but these settings are the Cliff Note Dart version that you can set these, and your screen, your trading experience is going to mirror and replicate mine immediately. Here on the left-hand side, you have the 3 bars, and you can see I have autosave on. I have the dark color theme. That is simply because of the times of day that I trade. I'm at the charts a lot. My husband trades, my son trades, and so a lot of times we're talking about setups or we're talking about things that are happening in the market, and I am in and out all day of the office and looking at it, so it is easier on my eyes to have the dark background, but you can have whatever background that you desire. The dark color theme, remember, that's basically it's changing these outer bars, and you can have dark or light, and I have my drawing panel, which is this panel here, always on. I'm going to go through here on this favorites bar and click every one, and you can see which ones I have favorited, and I'll just tell you a little bit about which ones you might not use. I usually keep my cursor on the cross because I don't have the vertical and horizontal grid lines on my trading screen. I try to keep my screen as minimal as possible, and so I use the crosshairs for showing me what price and lining up with what price, where price action is at that moment, or if I'm looking at where price reacted or where order block sits from, historical data. So I keep it on the cross. This next section, I have the trend line, starred, the arrow, the info line, the horizontal line, and the horizontal rate. I have all of those starred. I have the fib retracement and the trend-based fib extension starred, and I use those sometimes and sometimes not. On the next section of tools and shapes, I have the rectangle, I have the circle. I probably use that very little actually, and I have the path tool starred. The next section, I have text, I have image, I have a call out box, and I have price note and flag mark starred. I use those. I do not have any in the patterns section starred. I definitely have the long and short positions starred. Love those, use them constantly. It doesn't let you pick any icons, but I use this circle all the time to mark and denote different areas in the market that I might be looking at. And then I use the check mark and the X and just a couple of other various icons depending on what I'm doing. I don't click the button, but for the measure button, you can hit your shift key and swipe up, and so you don't really have settings with any of these. They're kind of set, so there's really nothing for you to copy there. You can see right here, I'm going up to the top bar now. Across the top, you can see my time frames. In the minutes, I have everything except the 45 minutes starred. I run off the hour, the 4 hour, the daily, and occasionally the weekly. So it just depends on what strategy and what my week looks like. Normally, with my personal strategy that I love to trade, I really run kind of the 4 hour and the hour for looking at trend bias, at my market bias, and then I use the hour to the 30 minutes for drawing my different zones and my areas of interest, and then I use lower time frames, 5 minute, 3 minute, 15 minute for dialing in entries, for catching that pinpoint, that laser entry. But those are the time frames that I use. Next, as far as the candles, the bars are hands down my favorite way to trade. I love the bar candles personally. Candles or candlesticks are the one most people are familiar with, and that's what you see on my screen now, and line. I have a couple of strategies. I had 2 strategies that I used that I traded. I don't really trade them a whole lot now, that I use the line a little bit more. I use it less now, but it's still starred in there. The indicators are kind of personal. There's a ton in there that I would never recommend, and I don't recommend to people, but have tried out when I was working with different people, or when I was looking to put together a certain algorithm, that I'll star them real quick. It's really easy to bring them on and off your list, so you can have your own indicators and just star them there. Here you have templates, and you can go through and put different indicators or different settings on your chart and then save them, and those are your templates. And again, part of these are just, you know, things that we've tested in the past, different ideas that we've put together of different algorithms that I wanted the settings saved so that I could go back, you know, and look at how it responds in different markets and what its win rate is, what kind of percentage it has, you know, as far as the return on investment and so forth and so on. So you can have your own templates. Again, those aren't really settings that would go to you unless you're studying a certain strategy. And in that case, I will have all the settings and everything, you know, just clear as day, so that you can also copy with that. There, over here to the right, you can see my main watch list right here. The ones that aren't on the screen here are, or I guess I could fit them all on there now. And so all the way from gold, you know, up to the top, I have them in different sections just because of how I am trading the market at any given time. Usually the way that I have it is I have anything that is, I'm watching what the market's doing, meaning maybe several times a day, or, you know, it could be several times an hour, depending on how much I'm watching it. I kind of have in my watching column, I have an entry zone, meaning like I am just waiting for that confirmation. It is in my entry zone. I'm looking to see what it's doing. If I'm not really following and looking at tons of different, or, you know, any number of different pairs at a time, and I'm only focusing on 1 or 2 or 3, I may just move those to the top. Lately, I've really only been trading the Aussie dollar and the euro yen. I had just moved up the pound yen because at the time it had a setup that I, you know, was looking at. I could go ahead and move that down. And then I have what I call my pool, and those are pairs that I will trade but are just in the pool. I'm not really looking at now, and you can easily move the pairs, you know, around in your watch list and drag them back and forth. You know, again, I just kind of keep the ones I'm using the most at the top, and these others will move around accordingly. And you can sort, you know, move them up and down, and if you click symbol, it alphabetizes them by section. And section 3 for me is just a section of pairs that I'm not actively trading, but I talk to a lot of different people about what they're trading, and so I like for the main 28 to be on my list, plus a couple others that I use for for confluence, because I use the dollar index, oil, I use the yen basket, and I look at gold you know, occasionally also. So I like those to be on my list of my main 28. And again, I run that through Oanda. Even if I'm not using my Oanda account and I'm using another broker, this is what you'll see my normal everyday TradingView setup to look like. There's really only one other part that I have customized settings that might be helpful. Everything else that I would have settings for, I would show in specific strategy videos. This again is just how to set up for trading Forex. If you decide to use the fib settings, you know, obviously whoever you follow or whatever strategy that you look at, you're going to see those, but I will share mine real quick since it is a trading setting that I traded for several years in Forex and did very well with. If you draw your fib, it has 2 points, so draw 2 points and then hit your gearbox, and these are the settings that I use for trading fib. And you can see how I trade it and all my entries and exits and trade management and all of that in my fib strategy course, but these are the settings that I use. So just screenshot that or pause the video, and Obviously the 100% is my start, and then you have your 0%. I use my green lines for take profits. I look for my optimal entry to be in the golden zone between the 50 and the 618. It's still a valid entry and a valid trade for me for the 76.4. Between the 76.4 and the 88.2, that invalidates that trade idea for me. So I would no longer be taking an entry. I would at that point, you know, be reassessing what my bias is, or even if I was interested in a trade. And then I use the 88.2 as my stop loss. Again, I have other videos that will go into, you know, how I use the fib, but that was one that actually does have, you know, customized settings. I want to show you now the actual trading settings, and you can get there from this gear here, or you can right click on your chart and press settings. And so we'll start up here with symbol. These are my settings, and you can again pause or screenshot my settings here. I keep the borders off for my body. I run at 100% opacity, and I run the white for bullish candles, and I run purple for the bearish candles, and I run both at 100% opacity. Same for the wick, 100%. Use the white and the purple. You can pick any color that feels good to your eyes, that feels good to your emotions, that helps you trade. There's not a right and wrong here. Obviously, it comes default with red and green, and you'll see those colors, you know, reflected pretty much everywhere. And so you need to kind of be an association of what, you know, red usually represents bearish, and your green or blue represents bullish. I do have my last price line on, and that is this line right here, which is where price action was last live trading at. And then I have everything else on here off. You want to pick your time zone. The status line, I have the symbol for description, and you can have this on and off right here. That's this top line right here. So, and you can have just the ticker and watch that change. So it took the description off. You can have the ticker and the description, which is just a little longer. It gives you the code for both countries for that pair, and it writes it out. I just have the description, but you may want to change that, you know, when you're first starting out. I have the open market status. I mean, I know if the market's open or closed, but I don't know. I just have it on, and I've never changed it. I always want to see the open, high, low close values that are when you scroll over a candle, you can see what that candle has done. You know, right now it's giving you the values of this candle that I'm over. It's open, it's high, it's low, it's closed. I don't have the volume that is running for that candle, and I have the background of the candles running, or the status line running at, you know, whatever this is, a little less than 50%. Under the scales, I do not, that's going to be over here. I do not have the symbol name label on when I trade. However, a lot of times when I record and I'm doing either analysis or some type of teaching, I'll run it, I'll turn it on so that no matter where people look or what part of my screen is emphasized, people can see what pair that I'm on. So I don't trade with that, but I do sometimes turn that on. The symbol last price label, you can have the price and percentage here. You can see that change where it has what percentage of a change in the price, but I just have the value according to the scale that it's on. I don't have the symbol of the previous day close, which is an interesting one you can kind of play with. I do run the bid and ask labels, as you see here sometimes for trading. Most of the time I know where it is. I'm watching it, and a lot of times I'm not scalping, so it's not as important that I'm watching that. I'll have a larger stop loss, and I know the typical spreads that run for the pairs that I trade. So you know, sometimes I will turn that on, the bid and ask, so you know what price you're paying. High, low, and average price labels, I have that off. I do have no overlapping labels because sometimes depending on how you're marking up your charts, I don't want anything overlapping. I want to see all of my information over there. The countdown to the bar close, that to me is very important because almost all my strategies have to do with the entry at a candle close. You never know what is going to happen, and so I'm looking for the countdown for a candle close, be it the 1 hour I'm waiting for it to close, or the 30-minute I'm waiting for it to close, or the daily I'm waiting for it to close. So I run that countdown candle constantly, and I also run the plus button on, and that's so that you can right here add a trade. For appearance, and everything else is off. Obviously, date format here, currency and unit, have it always visible. And so those are my settings. For appearance, I have my background is solid, and I have it the darkest it will go right here. You can make your background solid or gradient. You can make it to where, you know, you can have, if you love pink on the top, you can have pink on the top. I mean, you can run it however you want. I just have it solid. Again, I work at a lot of different times during the day, and so it's easy for me, on my eyes, the darker it is. Now, I do not run vertical or horizontal grid lines. Here you see the vertical line. So that's going to be, you know, something that is preference. I keep mine off, and I do the same for the horizontal lines. Now, I ran the horizontal lines a lot more, and if I ever do turn them on, like when I'm teaching something or going over something, I will keep them very, very light and minimalize in the background. But my trading setup, I keep those off. I don't use them. I do not have session breaks on. I keep my scales text here at 12 and a bright white. Scales lines, I have those, the opacity at 12%. My crosshair, I have it 100%. I have a thin line, and I have a dotted where it's a dashed line, not a dotted line. I do not have the watermark on when I trade personally, but sometimes if I'm filming or I'm working with somebody and we're going through different analysis on pairs, I will turn that on and off. And all it does is give you in the background right here, you see the watermark. And let me see, you can turn it up. It tells you what pair you're on, what the time frame is, and then gives you the description of the pair. Again, I don't really use that, so I keep that off for my own personal trading. And the navigation buttons and pane buttons always visible, and I like some margins around the side. Like I don't like the candles to go right up to the edge, so I keep some margins. As far as my trading settings go, I keep the buy sell buttons. Those are these right here, but I don't really use those because I do manage my trades and I look at, you know, different things. I like to double check what I'm doing, and maybe, you know, depending on what percentages of my account that I'm trading. So I usually use the trade screen like I showed you in the last video. I have all of these off. I do have the appearance of positions. I have the profit and loss listed in money versus pips or percentage. I do have the reverse button on. I have orders, executions. I don't have execution labels, but that might be something that you're interested in. And extended price line for positions and orders because I like the line to go all the way across. In the video before, I did a live trade, or I placed a trade on the demo account, and so you can hook up your paper trading account or a demo account. I recommend when you are clicking around and you're playing around, do not have a live account you know, connected, because especially when you're not sure what you're doing, you can end up, you know, blowing an account and not even be live trading. So make sure you have a demo account up, and then click away and see what the different settings do and research it. You can't mess up anything. You know, you can go in and reset, and you can always come back here to my settings and then copy those if something isn't working quite right. I have my order and positions alignment on the right. As far as events, I do have economic events on the chart and only future events. If you take this off, it'll show you everything in the past, and occasionally I'll take that off if I'm going back and say I was looking at trades that I had lost over a 2-month period of time that had a certain set of conditions where I was trying to maybe put a filter on a strategy and go, you know, on this pair, I'm losing these trades when this condition is present, and I would turn that on to easily be able to go back and see what events or what, you know, news released on a certain day at a certain time to see if there was any, you know, correlation between what was happening in the market and some type of release. So you know, I would turn that on, but normally I mean turn that off, but normally I just have only future events, and you're seeing that right here. You can see that down here at the bottom. You see these circles right here, and it kind of tells you which pair that it affects, and it has a color coded system, you know, of red, orange, of how much it will impact, and kind of tells you what it is. So you can kind of see when there's a news event coming out. That wraps up my TradingView settings. I hope it was a blessing to you, gets you started, or if you're trying to mimic my particular trading experience or the way my TradingView is set up, you know, there you have it. That is my personal trading settings, and so it should get you started quickly on Forex, or get you reset, or get your trading experience to copy mine. So I know that's a blessing. Let's move on to the next video.